Smartphone companies sell devices that have years of software updates scheduled for them. And software updates are important for various reasons. Security and new features are just two of them. As software updates happen on a year-to-year basis, I kind of started to ask myself the question as to how big are the changes over, like, say, a 3-year period? Are the changes big enough to prompt users to actually switch to the newer devices, or is using your current device still fine? And that's where the idea for this video came in. Right now, I have the Samsung A32 running Android 13, One UI 5.1, and the phone that I'm currently recording on, Samsung S25 FE, running Android 16, One UI 8.0. You would think that there would be a massive change over 3 years of updates, but the answer that I came to, well, it's kind of surprising. Let's get into it. What's up, everyone? Kagiso Kaledi here, and I just want to see exactly how big of a change has occurred over the 3-year period of Android software updates. I don't have an iPhone, so like the only metric that I have to check is two of the Android phones that I have, Samsung A32 and the Samsung S25 FE. The A32 that I have has Android 13, One UI 5.1. Now, let me just make it clear. One UI is Samsung's Android skin on top of Android. And if you're not familiar with what an Android skin is, it's basically a company's own customized user interface on top of stock Android, which is just the bare bones of Android. The user interface actually gives the user a much more unique and different feel based on what the company tries to aim to give the user. Samsung runs One UI across all their phones, so that's why you're able to tell while browsing through a Samsung phone that it is indeed a Samsung phone. It is very recognizable. It gives the user a much more unique brand contextual feel that associates it with Samsung. Xiaomi has its own user interface. Oppo has its own user interface. Vivo has its own user interface. This is very specific to Android companies specifically. Android is an open source software, which is why many smartphone companies actually use Android and then place their own skin on top of it. Since it's open source, it's available to everyone, whereas iOS is not open source. It's only available to Apple iPhones. Since Android is open source, companies like Xiaomi, Vivo, and Oppo have their own Android skins. So basically they use Android and just add their little sprinkle on top of Android to make it feel more brand unique. So over a 3-year period, how different are the operating systems of Android 13 and Android 16? Is it more useful? Do we get more functionality? Like, does it look different? So I'm going to go over the Android 13 features that I used that were more noticeable to me on a day-to-day and compare them to the Android 16 features and see exactly where the changes are. So when Android 13 was introduced, I paid attention to just basically 4 features. New widgets, and there was a battery widget that I didn't use because I could see my battery percentage when scrolling down the quick panel. Personally, I really don't like to see my battery percentage to be like, I don't want it to be in my face, so I didn't use that widget as much. Second, apps that can show their content on the notification screen while the screen is locked. Like, I only use this for one app because I wanted all my other notifications to be visible. And that was like Discord, because Discord was just like a bunch of messages that I didn't need to see all the time. The third feature is modes and routines. Now, this allows you to automate settings. Like, for example, when you're sleeping, you can have it automatically switch on the setting at a specific time without you doing anything. So let's just say if you don't want to be disturbed in the morning, you can set a routine to have the do not disturb setting on, which is really, really good. And then the final feature was widget stacking. Now, I use this all the time, like it's on my home screen. It was introduced, I think, with One UI 5.0 instead of 5.1. And this basically allows for better home screen management. Like, it allows you to sort of make the most of the space that you have. Now, the S25 FE with Android 16 had 5 features that I actually paid attention to and I used more frequently. The first feature is call transcription. Now, this is very useful if you want to refer back to a call in case you want to be reminded of something. Maybe as an important piece of information that you just forgot, you can just go back and actually see what that thing was, which is really useful. The second feature was expanding folders, allowing for quick access of apps within the folder. Now you could do this, like you can create a folder on the home screen and then expand it, making it easier for you to actually open the apps in the folder while it's expanded. The third feature was just AI features, word processing, quick searches, and the now bar, like with music playing. It makes it very easy to keep track of the things that you're doing currently. And with quick searches, there's the circle to search, and then you can press the power button to ask Gemini like just quick questions. AI features are going to be the bulk of the new features that are useful. The fourth feature is based on security. There's a feature called advanced protection that gives you more control over the privacy and security settings on your phone. And then the fifth and final feature that I really noticed was just lock screen widgets. Now, these widgets are more useful compared to the ones on Android 13, and I really appreciated that. Android 13 does not have lock screen widgets, which kind of makes it a bit more difficult to interact with applications from the lock screen. Most of the drastic changes that I noticed are mainly from One UI instead of Android. One thing that I noticed between the two software versions is that there isn't much that is functionally different, because what I can do on my S25 FE, I can still do on my A32, technically. Now, this is specific to my use case. The only two features I could actually say that give me a functional improvement over the older OS version is AI, the built-in AI, and lock screen widgets. Everything else I can still do on the A32. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that there's just a little bit more friction involved in Android 13 than there is on Android 16. Android 16 is much more convenient compared to Android 13. So, for example, just with the folders, with Android 16, you get expanded folders. With Android 13, you don't. So I would have to open the folder and then open the app with Android 13. Whereas with Android 16, I'm like, the folder is expanded. I could just open the app right then and there. So, less friction. Searching for information while I'm in an app or like reading an article, doing something, here I'd have to open up the split screen and actually, use two apps at once. Whereas with my Android 16, I don't actually have to do that. I could just, circle to search or just ask Gemini with the power button while I'm still on the screen of the app that I was already in. So not a lot of functional difference, just a whole lot of friction for doing the exact same thing. Your phone, however, does look different. Newer OS versions make your phone look way, way different because the UI is slightly changed. It's more accessible, more convenient, and more customizable. Now, you may be thinking that if most of the changes are visual and UI related, then why do I need to get a new phone? Like, I can still do the exact same things, just with more friction. Well, yes, you still need to get a new phone. That's just the answer, simply because software updates also come with security updates. And secondly, the hardware gets old fast. So the reason why I say you have to get a new phone after some time is because software updates also try to improve the current performance of your phone. So bug fixes and security updates is an important thing. So your phone is less vulnerable to hacks and things like that. So technically, you can push your old phone. I just, don't recommend it. But if that's something that you feel doesn't necessarily require the urgency of getting a new phone, you can still push your old phone. It's just that you're going to have to sort of fill in the gaps of the newer features with like other third-party applications. Now, the reason why I say the hardware gets old fast is because of three reasons. Apps become more sophisticated and they ask more of the phone the more updates they get. Security vulnerabilities need to be monitored and fixed, and newer OSs keep up with the security advancements. And finally, your phone eventually gets slow and laggy, especially if it's a phone with a chipset that isn't future-proof. Generally, budget phones are the ones that are susceptible to this because they don't have the most future-proof chips out there. Speaking from experience, using the Samsung A32, which is a budget phone, you have to tolerate a whole lot. And things like lag and like opening of apps becoming very janky is something you're gonna have to get used to. Like the phone works fine, maybe like the first year or first few months, and then after that, it just becomes really unbearable. Working fine doesn't mean it doesn't have these laggy tendencies. It does, but they're not as unbearable as the years go by. So visual and UI changes, security changes, and a whole lot of AI, these are the major changes that you can tell over the 3 year period of OS updates that are different and that give you more functionality. Now, can you get by with an older phone still? And my answer is yes, yes, you can. Simply because with AI, you could just get AI applications like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, all of these things you could just download and use AI that way. Or you can get third party applications to sort of supplement the little features that you want that are in the newer phones. The only thing I think you can't necessarily sort of close the gap with is security updates, which is provided by the smartphone manufacturer directly. And that kind of stops after the software period for the software update period for the specific phone you have. So, but other than that, I think I think you can still use an older phone. I think you can push it. Thanks for watching, everyone. And please, if you did like the content, please subscribe, like the video, comment if you have a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one.